Hey y'all, it's Diamond.
Hey, it's your girl Shay.
Well, yo, it's Jasmine, and welcome to New Age Mamas. What's up, y'all? Y'all had a long weekend, didn't y'all? I can tell.
You just know.
I just know y'all had a
Yes,
long weekend.
honestly, we did.
I can't wait to get into the details of it. We're going to get into those deets next week. But, Shay, how was your work day? Because you said it was rough.
Basically, I just got hit with a lot of stuff at once. Like, it was Monday, but it just felt like a lot of stuff carried over from last week. And I just, I was just like, where did all this work come from? My inbox was trash. Like, I started work early too. And I started on a day having to reset all my passwords, y'all.
I can't stand that.
So
because then they be wanting so many, they be like, oh, it can't be nothing of the same. Like,
exactly. And I had to reset on my VPN, on all these other different platforms. It's just like, it was not how I needed to start my day. But we got through it, y'all. We here.
You got through your Monday. I got some news for y'all.
Cool, what's going on?
I took my test Friday. And I passed, y'all.
Yes!
Thank God. I knew it.
Look, we have a guest here, y'all. Her name is Tiffany. So, Tiffany, you may not know, but I've been, and some of the guests may not know, but I've been studying to become a home inspector. And so this was my 5th time taking the test, y'all, and I did it. I passed. I don't know what score. They just said pass. I was like, thank you, God. I was like, thank you guys so much. And I was not ready to take this test. This past month, after I failed it last month on the 28th, so I took it on the 3rd. So I took it exactly 32 days after. And I was not ready. I barely got to study because, as y'all know, motherhood, life, just regular stuff was coming up, and I just wasn't able to study really how I really wanted to. But God came through for you, girl.
That's a good thing too, because without you studying a lot, that probably took off a lot of pressure, and you was able to relax during the test. The rest of the time, you probably was trying to think about everything that was in that book. You was trying to pound so. With you not studying that much,
that hurt. I was scared. But y'all know what I end up these past 2 times of how I kept getting my score up. I think it is from taking my test back to back in that 30-day window when I can. But also I got a scratch piece of paper, and I was able to write down. I wrote down questions that I had trouble with because for some reason, I just know me, I read fast and I skim. I don't read. I be, okay, yeah, that's what it said, but that's not what it said. So by me having to I wrote down the question, wrote down the answer. I was like, oh, y'all tweaked. I was about to answer this all the way wrong. I really had to slow down. And then just in my brain, it processed. So I was like, okay, I see a new test technique for me.
Okay, did this test take longer to take than your rest of the
Yes, I took 3 hours and 20 minutes. The other ones I was done in 2.
Okay, yeah.
Because writing that down.
Baby,
No, I am so glad that we're on to the next part of this chapter, girl. Because I know how you feel. I know a couple of times you was definitely a little discouraged. But
yes,
girl. So
after the 3rd time, I was discouraged. But before, I was boohooing, crying. I was like, what is wrong?
But you kept going.
That's very true. That is very true. Diamond, you want to give us a little update, or we gonna wait till next week to dive in?
Next week to dive in.
Because that's a lot to unpack. That's a whole episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
It ain't the whole episode, but it's there.
Shay, did you mean to disappear? Because I can't see you anymore.
No,
I can see her still.
Really? Okay, as long as y'all can see her. I can't see her for some reason. I'm like, dang, where's she
me? I was like, I can see myself.
But last time okay, it don't matter. I'll talk about that later. But okay. We have a special guest today. Her name is Tiffany Burns. And so Tiffany is a wife of 10 years, mother of 3, and the founder of Lotus Legacy, a personal finance personal finance coaching business that focuses on helping others deprogram from inherited money stories and reframe their money mindset to help them go from financially stuck to financially stable. After growing up in a home where money management wasn't taught, Tiffany made many money mistakes in early adulthood and eventually found she and her husband were $91,000 in consumer debt. They successfully paid that off in 3 years, and with a focus of a new outlook on money. During her debt-free journey, Tiffany became immersed in personal finance and became a certified financial coach and mindset coach to empower other women to change their relationship with money. Welcome, Tiffany. Yay!
Hey, Tiffany.
Hey, y'all. Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You have quite a story, and I cannot wait to unpack it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Listen, I'm sitting here like I'm feeling real auntie. Like, am I auntie vibes here or like big sis? Like, I know this is a millennial, but like I feel like the elder millennial right now.
No, big sis. You giving us the gems.
Okay.
Because like, especially knowing that you were like, before we dive in, just from like hearing your background, I was like, wow, like so many of us can relate to this, and so many people are scared to even look at their debt, face the truth. So I was like, oh yeah, this is perfect. Like, this is perfect. So like, to dive in, what was the moment that you knew that you had to make a change?
Yeah. And so our journey, or my journey into changing my relationship with money, really started when I was in this transition period. So my husband and I was pregnant with my second child. I have 3 kids, so 3, 6, and 9. And so when I was pregnant with my girl, 3, 6, 9, I was gonna have a party for them, but they
That's dope. I love it. I never heard of that.
They wouldn't have got it. But I have 3 kids. So when I was pregnant with my second, like, you know, me and my husband, we're from the DMV. Cost of living here is really high. Childcare is ridiculous. And so we're trying to figure out, you know, should I continue working? At that point, like I was working part-time in retail, and I was like, okay, does it make sense for me to continue working, or should I stay home and be a stay-at-home mom? And that's when we were like pulling out the numbers and figuring out like what made sense for our budget. And that's when we realized how much debt we were in. We had no idea before then. We would just be like, oh, okay, you know, we want to buy something. We'll just go ahead and, you know, open up a card or finance it and do all of these different things. Like, we weren't paying attention to how much debt we had. And so we racked up that debt pretty quickly just because we weren't paying attention. Like, I feel like we fell asleep at the wheel. And so when we were in that transition period, when I was in that transition period from going from working to staying at home, is when we realized like something has to change. Like, it was a scary feeling because, and I don't even know if I really talk about this part that much, but, you know, from going from working my whole adult life into becoming a stay-at-home mom, like I was trusting my husband that, okay, so you got us, like, so, you know, and I can't not know what's going on in our finances, right? Like, I needed to be more involved. And so we realized how much debt we were in. I was going to be staying at home, so that meant I had to be financially dependent on my husband. And so I needed to be in it. But also in that transition period, like I had a vision, like I saw what I wanted my life to look like. And I'll talk more a little bit about this later, because we'll talk about like, you know, the things that this is the strategies on how I tell people to plan out. But the vision of what I wanted my life to look like in that transition period, I saw like, okay, what would my life look like if I stayed on the path that I was on? I saw stress. I saw struggle. I saw my parents fighting about money when I was growing up. I saw, you know, my grandparents would have disagreements about money. There was so much like division when it came to money in my household. And I saw my family going down that same path if we kept doing things the way that we were doing it. And I saw struggle and things like that. And then on the other side of that, I saw like the other life, right? Like where I was taking my kids on vacation, and, you know, things were a little bit easier and smoother, and it just didn't have that stress and struggle. And so like in that transition period is really when we decided to get serious. And I was like, okay, I have got to make a change. But it came in that transition period.
So if you don't mind me asking, what did you do before you like, okay, I'm about to transition into this mode of a stay-at-home mom? What did you do before for work?
Yeah, so for work, my whole adult career, I was in retail management. So I worked in some of, you know, Sephora, Ann Taylor Loft, where else? Banana Republic, where I met my husband. And so I was a retail manager for my whole adult career. And so when we had my daughter, I had dropped down to part-time because, you know, retail schedule is crazy. And so I was already part-time. And so then again, like at that point, we were trying to figure out if it made sense for me to continue working part-time in retail, or if, you know, coming home would make more sense. And so, yeah, that's what I did, like, career-wise before the transition.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, that's nice. So I heard you mention, like, before you and your husband was just taking out, like, you know, credit cards and stuff and wasn't thinking about it until the end. So what would you say, or would you say that was your biggest mistake financial-wise, and how did you end up overcoming that?
Yeah. And so, yeah, the biggest mistake I feel like I was making at that time was, again, like, I feel like we were asleep at the wheel. Like, we weren't managing our money. We could make money. I had a job. My husband had a job. My husband is a low-key workaholic, so he had multiple jobs. Like, he is not afraid of hard work. So we always had money coming in, but we weren't managing that money. And so money would, just as quickly as it would come in, it would go out. And because we weren't managing it, the money that we had, while on paper we made enough money to take care of our bills and stuff, because we weren't managing it, it would go to places that it shouldn't have gone. And then we're having to rely on credit cards to, you know, do different things that we probably didn't need to. And so just that, like, not managing my money and not really seeing what was going on with the money that we had coming in was the biggest mistake that we made.
And I think a lot of people make that mistake. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to make that mistake, especially, I don't know about you all, but when I came out of school, like, my grandmother, she was pushing for a budget. Hey, what's going on? What's coming in? My credit card bills were come to her. Hey, this is a little high. What's going on? And I'm just living my best life. I'm not thinking it. And then it hits you when you get grown. You like, I got to pay these bills.
Yeah, I love that your grandmother was, you know, at least trying to give you some of that knowledge and wisdom, right? Like, I feel like for so many of us, we didn't know, like, nobody was telling us how to manage. So we didn't know, right? Like, and so one minute you're a quote unquote child, and then you're going into adulthood, you're able to get credit cards, you got student loans, like, you have money coming in, and you didn't have practice or any knowledge or education around what to do with that money when it came in. And so a lot of us were making mistakes just because we didn't know any better.
And see, when I was growing up, they would call it balancing your checkbooks. And I was like, what does that mean? You know? And then, like, you know, as we got older, I'm like, I hear we need a budget. And I'll hear people say budget, but what does budgeting mean? Mm-hmm. You know? So after getting older and actually having put together a budget, obviously I'm managing my own family finances now, but I wasn't taught. It was something I had to learn, but it is something that kind of should be more accessible. Like, it should be a more common tool, I would say. And so speaking of, like, was there a particular strategy that you used to like pay off the debt?
Yeah. And so I'm gonna give y'all like the little process that I take my clients through too, because I feel like this is important. Before you even look at your numbers, before you create your budget, before you do anything with money, I want us to really understand that for a lot of us, money isn't just making a budget. It's not just about the money that you're bringing in. We have more emotional and mental connections to money. And so understanding, like, what you're doing all of these things for, right? Everybody talks about when you're doing something different, like having your why, it's just as important for your money. So having some sort of vision, right? So I talked about, like, you know, I pull my numbers first and then have my vision, but I actually want you to do the reverse, right? Like, think about what you want your life to look like, because you can use money as a tool to build that life. And so think about, like, again, like, without any limits, without any fears, without any negative thoughts, like, what do you want your life to look like? And then how can we start to make money do what we want it to do? And so have your vision, think about what you want your life to look like. And then again, like, then you start needing to manage your money differently. You have to be super intentional about, my money is going to do the things that I needed to do to get me to that life. So if the goal is to pay off debt, the goal is to save money. If the goal is to build generational wealth, right? Like, that means you need to start investing, right? So if you know what the vision is and you have a budget, you can direct your money to where you want it to go. The next thing is to make sure that you have a gap And I feel like this is like one of the things you hear, like some of the wealthy people and some of the experts talk about, like, live on less than what you make, right? But I like to call it the gap. Like, you need to have a gap between the money that is coming in versus the money that is obligated to go out. If you don't have a gap, then it's hard to save money. Then it's hard to pay off debt because all of your money is taken up by bills. Like, that's that paycheck to paycheck cycle that people talk about. And so when we talk about our story about how we got out of debt in 3 years, that's because in that time period, we doubled our income. Like, my husband got raises. We were working part-time jobs. We were bringing in more money, and we created a bigger gap. And then
wait, I'm sorry, I got a question about that. Before you go on to number 3. No, before you go. So you said that you all doubled your income, and so he was getting raises. So were you, before you became a stay-at-home mom in that 3 years, did you end up going like, okay, I'm about to work some more jobs to go ahead so we can pay off this debt and then you?
Yeah, so I for a couple Christmases worked at like Pier 1 to bring in some extra money for like the holidays, so we didn't have to use the credit cards for Christmas gifts and stuff like that. My husband, I told y'all, like, he's a low-key workaholic. Okay, when I met this man, he had 6 jobs, and so like we were yeah, girl. Yeah, like so he was out here getting it right. And that was another part of the story too, is because we knew that we wanted to get out of debt, and we knew that like, if the quicker we did it, we could get to that life that we saw, that vision that we had. And so we were willing to sacrifice, the time, the sleep. There were movie nights that he missed because, he had to work while I was taking care of the kids. Right. And those were some of the sacrifices and things that we had to get rid of, like, during that time period, so that we could get to the other side.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question too. So I know you said like it took you guys 3 years, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So did you put a time frame on that and beforehand, or you just went with the flow? Or did you say like, I'm gonna, okay, you went with the flow?
Yeah, I didn't put a time period on it. And there are like debt payoff calculators that you can use. If you just Google like a debt payoff calculator, it'll tell you like, if you put this much money on it, enter your debt. If you put this much on it, this is how long it'll take you to pay off your debt. We didn't use anything like that. We just went in with it like, let's just focus and keep our heads down. And then any additional money that we had coming in either went towards the debt, or towards the end of the debt, we were going on vacation. And so we were like, they call it cash flow. So we cash flow. So we were saving money for different things. But everything else, like, we cut out so much of the foolishness that we were spending money on and got super focused on just like tackling that debt. So we were able to do that like a lot quicker. But we didn't have like a time frame that we were working on.
Nice. I love it. And I love the teamwork. So speaking of the teamwork, like, being married, was it hard to, like, for one of you all to get on board? Because I know some people, like you said, you seen your parents fight about finances, and some people like, nah, I don't want to be stuck and we got to eat this and we can only do this. I want to live my life. And the other person like, I'm trying to get us in a better situation. So like, was it hard was it hard for one of y'all to get on board, or were y'all both like, no, we got this?
Right. I would love for y'all to guess which one was hard to get on board.
You?
Yes.
But it was your plan, or was it his idea?
So he would listen to Dave Ramsey's podcast like randomly, and I would listen in, and I'd be like, he's planting the seeds, right? Like, I'm hearing it, it's in my ear. He was better with money than I was. I'm not gonna say he was like the best with money, but he was better. Like, he knew more about budgeting and things like that than I did. But so it took a little bit longer for me to get on board. Again, I feel like a lot of people need like some sort of catalyst. Like, again, we were in this transition period where it was like forcing me to do it. And so, a lot of us are like out here free falling, and like the ground is there, and some of us need to see the ground before we're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna pull it. Like, I'm gonna do it. And so that was kind of the situation that we were in our transition. With like, it really took like me seeing how much debt we were in, me not being able to going to work anymore, and being dependent on my husband to finally be like, okay, let me take this serious. And so, yeah, when you and your spouse are not on the same page, it's pretty much the same thing that I tell people with the, debt payoff strategy. Like, y'all need to come together and have like my friend calls it getting financially naked, right? Like y'all have to be very, very vulnerable and transparent with each other when it comes to like what you are working towards as a couple. Like I have a friend who's a marriage coach, and she talks about having like a mission statement and a vision statement for your marriage. And so when you understand what you are working towards together, it makes it a little bit easier. But then also like giving yourselves a whole lot of like patience with each other, because like if you're married or if you've ever been in a relationship, y'all are coming from different households, right? And what was normalized in your household is probably different from, you might have some shared experiences, but it's different from the house. Like you go to somebody's house, like that's what y'all do over there. That's crazy. And they're looking at you like the same thing. And so understanding that money is the same sort of context, while there's some shared experiences, we have different money stories. And so we have to be very patient with each other when you're going through that process, because if one person is just like, it's my way or the highway, then it's not going to work. But then y'all have to like start talking, right? Like communication is very, very important in any sort of relationship. I used to tell my husband when I was triggered by like some of the things, like, okay, I feel myself getting defensive now. Like, hang on, like, I don't like the tone. Let's switch this up. Let's take a break. We had limits on how much money we would spend. Like if it was anything over like $125, we would talk about it.
I love it.
If there was anything that we were buying, like, or doing, if it wasn't a hell yes from both of us, then it was no. And so like our communication through this whole process has gotten so much better, because like once you can talk about money, which is really like for a lot of people awkward and uncomfortable and used to be taboo, like once you can start talking about that with your spouse and your partner, it makes it easier to talk about different things. But those are some of the things. So get naked and get vulnerable with each other and talk about what it is that you want out of your life, because again, you can use money to build that, and making sure that y'all are on the same page, because y'all have to work together. You're a team. Be patient.
Yeah, I agree, because I do see. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
My thing was delayed. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, that was it. There's those three things.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Because I do see that some people don't even talk about finances before they get married. Yeah. I see that some people just go in and like, oh, we'll figure it out later. Well, you don't know. What if this person like got like, because just with my student loans alone are OC. Did you also pay off student loans while you were doing this, or that was just all credit card debt?
Yeah, that was just credit card and personal loans. Those were, I didn't go to college, so I didn't have any student loans, and my husband paid off his student loans before we got married.
Oh,
so
that's amazing. He owned it.
I mean, again, I'm going to make sure I'm going to go ahead and put this little asterisk on this, okay? Because I know my story comes with a whole lot of privilege. I am married to an old white man, so I know. So statistically, they pay off their loans faster, right? When they come out, they're making a full dollar, versus Black women who are still making 68 cents on the dollar. So like, I know that my story comes with a lot of privilege that I have to acknowledge. And so, yeah, like it's not always the same for everybody else.
Wait, so what's the age difference? Now I want the tea.
He's 9 years older than me.
For some reason I thought he was about to say 90. I'm like, what? He does not look 90 from his pictures.
Girl, I could be living like, if he was 90, like it's a whole other level of like.
Okay, that's not that bad.
So with you guys having 3 kids, have you been trying to talk to it about your kids, or are they too young for it? Like what's the deal with the kids?
Oh yeah, the kids are in it. The kids are heavy in it. And so knowing from my own money story that either you're going to be taught or you're going to catch it, right? So like I wasn't explicitly taught about money. So I just picked up like the habits and things that I saw other people doing in my life. So my kids, they see us budgeting. I include our kids in our budget conversations. My daughter had a Galentine's party last month for some of her girlfriends. And so she helped me create the budget for that. And like, like this is your budget, and they get paid for chores and things around the house so that they could practice managing money now. And so if they go to Target and they spend their allowance money on foolishness, and next week they want something else, they understand the consequences of not having delayed gratification, right? And so they're learning those things when the stakes are lower, and they're seeing me and my husband practice those good habits. So it's not one of those things where it's do as I say, not as I do. They are watching us live this life while we're teaching them at the same time.
I love
that. What age did you start that? Because that's a great idea. Like with the allowance, and then them picking up from you guys.
Yeah, so my son started when he was around between like 3 and 4, and so we're getting ready to start it with the youngest too, because he sees the other ones getting money. He's like, I want some money. And he sees them going to the store to get money. So, just naturally as they start to get it, like you can have these conversations and stuff that you can build on over time, right? So I think that's another mistake that some parents make. Like we wait until our kids are teenagers to start having this conversation. And let's be real, like when you're a teenager, kids think they're low-key grown. They don't be trying to hear anything. And, it's not like one of those conversations where I feel like you should sit down and try to have it like the birds and the bees versus like having these conversations and just building on it over time. And so my daughter was, she was 6. My son was 3 when we started with them. And so they would just get paid for some chores around the house. We talked to them about now they understand 3 different things that you should do with your money. So spend some, save some, give some. And so we just started introducing the concept of investing with them. So again, just building on the conversations that we've had has been really helpful versus just trying to sit down and teach them everything all at one time.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Diamond.
I think that's great because, like you said, I didn't start thinking really financial wise until high school. Like when I first got a job and when I had got my first credit card, I thought I was on my first credit card. I'm okay. And my credit score was also good too. My parents did a great job of building my credit score up. So when I get my credit card, my limit was high. So they didn't tell me my limit because they knew I would have been buying all type of design and stuff I didn't need in high school. And then on top of not wearing uniform in high school, it was it was over with. Because I was buying every pair of shoes, everything that came out, I was buying. And my dad, first, he sat me down and he showed me the first credit card bill. He you have to pay this back. I said, oh. I'm wait, I gotta pay it back. He said, yeah, you have to pay this back. And that's when I got a job.
He's and I'm not paying it.
Yeah, I'm hold on. But my dad also, he did really good with explaining this is an emergency credit card. It was hard for me as a teenager to explain what is an emergency. What you have to tell, once you tell me this is an emergency credit card, you have to explain in what cases. Give me some scenarios. Give me what is an emergency because these shoes came out and they only go for a limited time. So that is an emergency. You have to, explain that to me.
Not the new shoes being the emergency though.
This is what I want.
This exactly. But you think about that, right? As a teenager, those are their emergencies. And so we have to be very explicit with how we're communicating with our kids because, they have stress, they have emergencies. It's different from adults. And so we have to be really clear. I love that your parents did that for you, though, Diamond. That's dope.
Do you feel like you had any of this knowledge? Because I know you mentioned pretty much your foundation is kind of rooted in what you knew before. And then once you got with your husband and kind of grew, do you really feel like he was the catalyst for making you take on, I guess, learning more?
No. So I always say if I didn't change my relationship with money, if I didn't start, so he would listen to the Dave Ramsey podcast and I was like, okay, let me hear what this guy got to say. So then I was listening to his podcast. I got a couple books, Tiffany the Budgetnista, Rami Sethi, Jen Sincero, You're a Badass at Making Money. All of these books were coming out. And so I started just Susie Orman, the OG of personal finance. So I'm reading all of these different financial experts and just learning more about it and realizing it's not as bad as it was because honestly, Shay, if I didn't change my relationship with money and how I manage money, I would have, that Titanic, that ship would have sank. My husband while he knew more than I did with money is still very much like a happy wife, happy life type of dude. And so it's one of the reasons why we racked up so much debt. Like, he had a hard time saying no to me. I went out and was like, okay, Beyonce's concert is going to be on HBO. Y'all
crying.
And I went out and financed a TV and a wine cooler and a mini fridge so that I could have this Beyonce viewing party for my friends, right? Like, so he was with me when I was making those decisions. And so it wasn't necessarily him per se, but I will say, like, I know that he's the perfect partner for me because he's been very patient with this whole process. And so, that it wasn't because of him, because I would have drove that car right off the bridge, but he was the perfect person for me to go through this experience with.
I love that because, like you said, if he didn't, even though he was being patient with you, but I'm pretty sure sometimes he was like, hey, don't you remember we got a plan? Like, and by you also changing your mindset, because like you said, changing your mindset is so important. Just because we got a plan, you could still be over here spending and they like, whoa, we weren't supposed to use that. Now we're getting into arguments and now it's a strain because you're going against what we had planned. And so I love that you had to change your mindset. So for people who have to do it alone, or they don't have a partner yet, but they have debt, they might have a kid, like, what do you, changing your mindset, key, like, but what do you think, like, if they are really struggling to change their mindset, like, what's the best? Because I know some people who are older and they know the stuff that they have to do, but they refuse to do it.
Yeah. Money mindset. So I look at, like, switching your money mindset. There's like 3 important things that you have to do. And so, like, one is overcoming fear. And so many of us are scared to do things differently, whether it's like fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of failure, because, like, you know, if you've made a lot of mistakes in the past with money, then you have proof and evidence that something that you're doing is not working. So there's fear of failure. So you might not want to try again. And so we have to overcome the fear of not trying. The next one is like building up your confidence to even try again, because confidence is like your willingness to try. And a lot of times, you know, what it takes for people to try things is being competent in something, learning things. So it's important to make sure that you're educating yourself, right? There's so many, like, what a time to be alive, right? Because you have access to information so easily, whether it's through podcasts, the internet, books, like, there's so many ways for you to get information. And so it's really important to, and then the last one, is building trust in yourself again. So, right, like, once you try, then you have to kind of just trust the decisions that you're making, trust your process. If you fall off, get back up and try again. And so I really look at mindset as those 3 components. So overcoming fears, building up your confidence, and learning how to trust yourself again. Because it's also easy to be swayed by all the things and all the noise that you're hearing and fall into different traps and stuff like that. And so it's really important to focus on those 3 things. But as far as, like, starting your financial wellness journey, like, I want to start by, like, explaining what I mean when I say financial wellness. And so I want you to put it in context of, like, some other sort of wellness. Think of, like, mental wellness or your physical wellness. If you're talking about your mental health and you're trying to be mentally well, then you are probably going to therapy, you are watching what you eat, you're journaling, you're moving your body, you're doing all of these things to help your mental health, right? So it's not just like one thing that you're doing. And you don't just do it one time. It's a process. Same thing with your physical health. You're going to the gym, you're eating differently, you're doing these things consistently so that you can get some results. And so it's the same thing with your financial wellness. So whether it's the money mindset side or the actual money management, like the budgeting side, we have to do things consistently, and intentionally in order to get to some sort of result. And in both cases, in all cases, going small and doing things like the baby steps and doing the very first thing makes all the difference.
Yeah, I like that. And I liked your advice, especially with the confidence and having to keep doing it again, because right now I'm on a journey of paying off my consumer debt. And, like, I'm like, dang, but, you know, it's one thing that you pay off that credit card and then you just, I just need some gas, or I just need this. And then you like, no, I actually need to go put this credit card away because any little thing is coming up. I'm like, I'd rather use this. So Because like and I remember when you said in the beginning of the interview, it's where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? And like right now, my goal is to purchase a building. So I don't want to purchase a building going in with consumer debt, like, because anything can happen. I might need a new water heater, like, and just anything can happen. I need to buy new furniture. So it's just, I want to be able to be free from this consumer debt so I can walk in something and actually be smart about, be well about my financial decisions. So I really appreciate that advice because I need it. I'm almost there, but I'm still going.
Yes, congrats. And I love that.
Thank you.
I want to say something else. Like when you are in like financial stress, financial chaos, and you're just not where you want to be financially, like I want you to think about like just what happens to your body on a physiological level, right? So like think about like if you were running away from something. When you're running away from something, your posture is different. Your peripheral vision is gone. Your pupils are dilated. Your heart is racing. Like you lose like, and you have so much more at stake, right? You cannot make a mistake. And so the stakes are higher. Your heart is beating and then just really just turns off your logical part of your brain and you go into like that fight or flight. Versus like running towards something, right? When you're running towards something, your posture is different. Your head is clear. You can see more things. You can see more options and more possibilities. And so when you're going into your vision, you want to have this building. When you don't have that, when you have savings, it gives you so much more clarity and so much more opportunity and possibilities versus like when you're in that chaotic state. And so it's really important to like, as you're pursuing your vision, you might start off running from something, girl. We're running from this debt. But then over time, you'll start to notice that your posture and your energy and efforts change, and it gives you access to more opportunities and possibilities.
And I agree with that because like I'm starting to be like, okay, like, no, this is the journey I'm on. Like they know, I'll say no in a heartbeat. What was Diamond just asked to go to like a live podcast show? She was like, it's $50. No, we got the stuff to pay for. I'm like, we got the stuff to pay. I have other stuff to pay for. So, and it's just like, also like some friends can be a distraction. And like, oh no, treat yourself. No, not you. Not you. I'm not talking about you. Not you.
I
no,
know,
not you. I apologize. Diamond and Shay were very understanding. They said the same thing. They was like, oh, we got stuff to pay for. But some friends I feel can be a distraction. Some friends are like, oh, treat yourself, do this. You've been depriving yourself. And it's just like, and then they kind of take over. And they like, oh yeah, I should go get that. I do deserve it. I do work hard. So did you have any friends or family distracting or trying to distract or just not really on board with what you and your husband had going, your whole family had going on with trying to get out of debt?
I think I like saying no to people too much. So I've always been firm with boundaries. And so, once we were focused on getting rid of that, like I have no problem saying no, right? And so the boundaries aren't just for other people, so they're for you. So like I'm saying no to myself, like, do I need this pair of shoes? Do I need to buy this thing right now? Or can I wait? Like, is it going to distract me or deter me from reaching my goals? And so we at the time, like, didn't know a lot of people who in our circle who were on that same journey with us. And so like, I found some debt-free communities on Facebook. That's when Facebook groups were still like cool. And so like, you need to find people, right? You have to insulate yourself in those journeys, which is why, like, again, going back to the parallels between like fitness and finances, when you're starting like a fitness journey, like it's nice to go to like boot camps and group like fitness where you see other people, like you can feed off of their energy so that you can keep going, right? Having a gym buddy is really helpful. So it's good and really, really helpful to find your people, like be in community with people who are doing it with you, because there were times like during that journey where I was like, okay, just forget it. Like, is it really worth it? Like my husband is missing out on these moments with our kids. I'm in here taking care of these kids. I'm trying to be out. I don't want to be in the house anymore. I want to go on vacation. I see other people buying cars and doing these things and living life. And so it's really important for you to make sure that you have some sort of like a community of people who are doing the same thing so that you can stay focused.
Yeah, we just had a friend that texted us and told us that she was debt free, and like that energy, like she texts us like, y'all, we like, what's up? I'm debt free. We like, whoa, like, okay. And saying stuff like that yeah, you have to surround yourself with friends that motivate you, but you're still going to have those friends, like, treat yourself and all that stuff. And I wouldn't even call those negative friends. Like, those are still people who saying like, okay, we see you being stressed out lately, like, still help yourself, but it's up to you which side you're going to take. So yeah, it's all about self-control in that moment, because those friends who are telling you, come on, you deserve to go out, which they probably not lying. Like, you probably do deserve to go out and have, yourself a good time. But then you also have those other friends like, nah, we got stuff to do,
That's
stuff like
true.
that. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, like, like I said, like probably like halfway through the journey, right? Like I was tired. Like I was like, you know what, forget it. Like I was over it. It was taking too long. And so, what I tell people now is like, I burnt myself out, right? Like I was doing too much. I was too strict. I was too rigid. I didn't give myself really any room for fun stuff or flexibility to do things that we wanted to. And that was a transition that we made. So again, like we started saving money. Like we made sure that we had fun money in our budget. We made sure that we had like our entertainment budget so that we can still, or self-care budget, like my hair, nails, like that stuff was in the budget, so that I was making sure that along the way, at least the second part, like I was taking care of myself, so I didn't feel like I was completely missing out on life. Like I don't want anybody else to feel like that, because if you're on this journey, like it's going to take you years. I want you to make sure that you're still able to enjoy your life along the way. And then the other part of that is I realized later on that like I was essentially trading like one toxic relationship with money for another, where I felt like I wasn't able to enjoy money. And so if I'm working towards like financial freedom and not being able and not teaching myself how to enjoy money along the way, like I would have never been able to enjoy it even once I reached that freedom, or once I reached financial freedom. And so I think it's really important for us to, as we're having these like mindset shifts and all these different things, to make sure that you are really setting yourself up for the life that you want. So include the things that make you happy now. Include some of the girl times and the brunches and those things that are really important to you. Make sure as much as you can to keep those in your budget so that you can enjoy your life along the way. With I'm a treat yourself coach, with the asterisk that it's not going to interfere or push back you reaching your goals.
I love that, because I do give myself some spending money.
Absolutely,
it ain't as much as I would like, but.
And right, like, but you're teaching yourself, right? Like, as your income increases, as your debt decreases, that gap gets bigger. You can start to play with those numbers a little bit more.
And I always look at it personally, like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get to that long-term goal? Sacrifice can be important, not obviously to your detriment, but there are a lot of things where it's like, I can put this aside because I'm going to have that building, or I'm going to have that car, or whatever it is that you're looking to the future towards. So I do want to ask, sorry, my questions got messed up. Like, so if you could recreate a high school student's curriculum to include financial wellness, what would that look like?
Yeah. Like I had this whole, like I was like actually creating a curriculum. So I was like, they need to learn this. Okay. But I really like to break it down, right? Because like, and I was like, okay, so a semester, like they have 4 quarters, so they need to, okay. Anyway, I was going, y'all gave me one simple question. I took it way too far.
But I love it.
I do that. It'd be like,
and so there's a couple things that I came up with. So one, like managing money, right? Like the budgeting piece, understanding how to manage the money that you have is so important. And so even under like budgeting and managing your money, I break that down into 4 different categories. So there's the money that you spend, the money that you save, the money that you give, and then the money that you invest. And so your money that you have coming in needs to go into those 4 buckets. And so when we were spending, like when we had debt, we were still spending money. We were spending money on paying off that debt, right? So that would even fall under the spend. And so understanding budgeting in like those 4 quadrants is really important. Income, like I want high schoolers to understand income. I saw this like TikTok where this woman was talking about like, we're millennials and we all got arts degrees and we can't use them, right? Like, so understanding like the lifestyle that you want and how to earn the income that matches that, right? And so we also know that there's so many ways to make money, really helping the students tap into the different ways to make money is really important, so people don't feel limited in their choices. Credit usage, which Diamond, you touched on, that your parents set you up with good credit, and just understanding how to use credit responsibly. Even now, like being debt free, I don't think credit cards are bad. And it took me a while to start using credit cards again and feeling comfortable with using them, but you can use them responsibly. You just have to know how. And so understanding credit usage, because in buying things like buildings or having businesses that you're trying to scale, there's going to be times where you need to leverage your credit. And so understanding like how to use it responsibly is super important, and understand the difference between like a good credit card or good use of your credit versus like something that is predatory, like payday loans and things like that. And then the last part of it kind of ties into like the money mindset part of it, which is like teaching people about emotional intelligence. So when you understand, like, you know, so many people, that's why retail therapy is a thing, because people use money and things off of their emotions. And so when you understand your emotions, you can regulate your emotions. It makes you clearer to make better decisions. And so I would definitely tap into the emotional intelligence piece so that you can tackle that money mindset part of it as well. So I tried to, again, I did too much. Like, y'all gave me one simple question. I was like, this is the 4 quarters and they can talk about one of these things.
No, you should start that. No, you should definitely start that. Because what all services do you offer? Tell our listeners about the services and how they can get with you.
Yeah. And so right now, my focus is on my membership community, Mama's Mastering Money. And so inside the community, I am helping you tackle both the money mindset part that we talked about and the money management, the budgeting, the saving, the paying off debt. Because I think it's really important to have people that can support you through that entire process. And so right now, that is my baby. That is my focus pretty much for all of 2023. I might be offering group coaching later on in the fall, but for 2023, it's going to be heavy on the building the community, because I want more women to experience what life is like on the other side of debt. I want more women to understand what it's like to have like the understanding and education to feel financially empowered and all the great things that come with that.
I love that.
Yes, I do. Sorry, my son keep coming in.
Lord, and then I forgot to tell them where to find me. Sorry, you can find me on Instagram. I'm the Lotus Legacy on Instagram. You can check out my website. It's thelotuslegacy.co. And if you hear me on this podcast, please reach out and tell me. I'm a real person in the DM, so you can message me and tell me that
she is, y'all. I DM'd her. Yes. We got a scenario for you, just like for that to make our listeners, feel a little realistic. I had 2, but I didn't feel like typing one because I was rushing. But Diamond, you want to read the scenario, or you want me to so I can know the second? I'll talk about the second one after the first one read.
Okay, I can do it.
Okay.
So 27-year-old, we're gonna say a female. So 27-year-old female. 60K in debt, 1 child, no savings, no retirement, and only 1 stream of income. So what advice could you give to that person? And do you see any mistakes, and where should they start?
Yeah. Okay. So, how much?
This was very broad. Sorry, it was 60K that they earned a year. I'm sorry, Diamond, I didn't write that clearly. Okay, I'm sorry.
60K, so I'm like 60K in debt. So so it's not debt; it's their income.
Okay, so 60K in income, no savings. So the first thing that I would have her do is we'll create a budget, because you have to be able to direct the money somewhere. And so I need you to see where all the money is going. So pull your bank statements, look at your bank statements in the past, like where is money going, and then create a budget based off of those numbers. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is that they are making a budget and they're pulling numbers out of thin air. And so, yeah. So
you're like, where you get that number from?
And this is an exercise that I do with some of my clients. I'm like, okay, tell me how much you think you spent in like groceries or restaurants or like whatever, like any category, shopping. And tell me how much you think you spent. And then we actually go through it. And that number is so different, right? And so when you are creating a budget without looking at numbers, when you make this budget, you break the budget, you feel bad about it, then it takes you a while to start again, right? So I need to make a budget by looking at, you know, some of the history from your past couple of months of expenses and create your budget. And then the first thing I'm going to tell her to do, Diamond, is to, after she's created her budget, is to start saving some money. We know that inflation is high, the economy is crazy, jobs are letting people go left and right. It's so important right now to have some sort of buffer between you and life happening. And so I would tell her before she does anything else, start saving up some money, at least 1 month of expenses before she starts trying to tackle any debt or anything like that. I am also a coach that is always going to advocate for women to make more money. And so if she has support and is able to, whether that is she's got a skill or a talent where she could, start a business, where she could get a part-time job, whether that means networking and talking to her supervisor at her job right now to level up in her career, we have to get her some more money. I want all women 6 figures or more. So start with the budget, save some money, but then also like long-term game plan is to increase income.
I love that. Well, that kind of ties into my second scenario that I didn't feel like typing up. Sorry. It was about the woman who may be on living at the poverty line or below the poverty line, and now they're on what's the stuff that helps people, assistance. I could not think of that. So they're on food stamps, they're on Section 8 and everything. Like, how do they get out of that rat race? Because, most people, sometimes they get stuck in that and they don't know how to get out. Like, how do they, what advice would you give somebody who's like, I'm on all of this and I want to know how to get out? What do I do? But you also made a good point, which is try to find more income.
Yeah. And so same thing, right? But if in those cases, most of the time I have women who, again, if you don't have a gap, then it's hard to focus, right? You're in that position where you're running. So we can't really strategize on how to shift your money mindset. Like, we're still in survival mode right now, sis. And so for women who are in that category, I usually tell them to partner with some sort of like career coach, some sort of mentor, somebody that can help them use the skills that they already have, give them a new skill set that they could be placed in a job that will be able to give them the income that they need to start getting into that more stable place. But then again, the same rules apply. Just because you don't have a lot of money, we still need to manage the money. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever experienced this, right? Like, if money was low, like, I can make $20 stretch like a whole week, right? But on payday, like, I'm out here balling, right? So, like, we have to, when money is tight, like, we have to be even more intentional with the money that we have. But again, usually I tell people to start with some sort of like career coach, mentor, some sort of networking that will help them use the skill set that they have to get placed. And then again, just using the money that you have as best as you can, as intentionally as possible.
I did want to bring up too, because usually when people are on assistance, if you start making a certain amount of money, you get off of assistance, and there's like this kind of place where you sit at where you can't get assistance, but you're still struggling because like you're just not making enough. Like, so what advice would you give to somebody who is there, like is maybe scared to take that jump, and like, I've been using assistance. Like, if I don't work or if I miss some hours, like my assistant's going to pick that up, because that's been my experience growing up. So, I know people who would be like, nah, I'm not trying to make no more money because then I'm gonna lose my assistance, and that's scary for a lot of people.
That sucks.
I think that's a comfort. Like, people be comfortable, and like Tiffany stated that at the beginning. Like, it's comfortable, it's reliable, it's what we know, it's what we attend to. The same way receiving, food stamps. Like, I know I'm getting this amount on this day and I can go without, like, for a little bit. Like, it's just all with them being comfortable. So it's like, okay, yeah, not trying to make this much because I'm going to get kicked off. I know I ain't going to be able to, yeah. And they probably just afraid, like they scared to step out. But
And so, again, we hear about the scarcity and poverty mindsets, right? Like, if we stay here, we're missing all of the things that are possible on the other side, right? And so there is this like really weird in-between space where I'm out of the assistance bracket, but I'm not thriving yet, right? Like, it's still real tight over here. But you're going to have to, one side, like you said, sacrifice things for a little bit, Shay. And then you have to realize, like, it's a process, right? Like, you're doing this so that you can continue to go up in your income and like the trajectory. Like, there's so many more like options and possibilities once you don't have that limitation of like staying with assistance. And that's a whole nother, I feel like that's a more like a deeper mindset conversation that we need to have.
And I just wanted your opinion, like, what would, like, I guess your mindset, what would you, as far as the first thing, I guess I would say, to tackle as far as your mindset?
I would still like challenge and ask them like what their vision is and what their hopes are for their lives. Like, if is this what you see? And if this is it, then that is the vision and we've arrived there. But there's so many people who aspire to have more and do more and be more. And so we need to tap into that little bit of hope, that if I get uncomfortable for a little while, that it'll be worth it and it'll pay off in the end. But we've got to reignite like the hope so that you can at least see that there's more available to you, a lot more available to you than what you know right now.
I love that, because that fear is based in not believing that you maybe can achieve more, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the fear of change like is real. Fear of success is a real thing, and people sabotage their own success because they don't know if they can handle it. They don't know what success feels like. If everybody in their family was on assistance and, again, like everybody, I saw so many people in my family struggle. Like, I didn't know what the other side could look like, but I was like, I know I want something different. Right. And so you just have to be willing to go out and try to do things different so that you can get different results.
I love that. And just in case, like, do you have any suggestions of books or where to start? Say if somebody is scared to like come to you, like, I don't want her to judge. You know how people just think they're going to judge me, even though you're not going to judge them because you're going to make them thrive. But what book should they start at to even start to like, okay, now I can go get a mentor. Now I can talk to somebody about my finances, but I don't want anybody to judge me where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's such a hard place to be. And I was talking about that on my Instagram today. It's like, sometimes like if you're not feeling good about your finances, right? If you're not where you wanted to be, if you're, in debt, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, and especially at like, we call it like this big age, right? Like you start to feel ashamed and embarrassed of where you are. You feel like people are going to judge you. But one, we don't do that at the Lotus Legacy, which is why I tell my stories about finance and Beyonce TVs, because, like I want you to know that I'm a human. I've had human experiences with money and made mistakes. And so you will never be judged by me. But as far as books, there's always, so I don't want you, so again, I brought that up because I don't want you to be so ashamed and embarrassed of your situation that you don't ask for help. And that's not just with money, that's anything. I don't want you to be feel so ashamed that you don't ask for help. But as far as books, there's two. So on actually there's more. So on the money management side, Tiffany the Budgetnista, she did a show on Netflix called Get Good with Money, but she has a book called, what was it? Yeah, Get Good. The book is called Get Good with Money. And that book is really, really good. It walks you through, she calls it financial wholeness. It walks you through everything that you need to do to really get from like that, that survival mode into thriving, from, you know, budgeting money. She talks about money mindset, saving, paying off debt, you know, life insurance, the whole nine. That book is the most comprehensive book that I've ever read about personal finance. So highly recommend that one. Another one is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Rami Sethi. I like his approach to just using money a more conscious way and not like that scarcity and depravity. So I think it's a nice mix of like money mindset and money management. And then on the other spectrum, with money mindset specifically, there's a book called Get Rich Lucky Bitch.
I love it.
And it was a really interesting read. So even after going through my own money mindset journey, paying off my debt, you know, building wealth for my kids and for my family, she brought up, you know, different exercises and activities to do with money mindset that I had not even thought about. And so that book is a really good deep dive into, you know, how to really start changing the way you think about money. And so I like that one. And then lastly is Jen Sincero's book. What is it called? It's right here on my desk. You're a Badass at Making Money. I don't know. They like to curse in the names. I'm sorry.
I know you're good.
Sorry, this is PG. Yeah, so, you know, You're a Badass at Making Money. Again, some really good books to help you start thinking about money differently. Because again, like I said at the very beginning, money is a tool, right? Yeah. And so we just need to use this tool. We can use it like a hammer can do two things. It can either destroy something or it can build something. And so I want us to use this hammer to build the life that we want to live. And again, I ain't never built a house before, but it's a process, right? Like it takes time and it takes patience, and sometimes things don't go according to plan, but you can still use this tool. So I want us to think differently about it so we can start using this tool in a different way.
Yes, and most importantly, sign up for Lotus Legacy, you know?
Mama's Mastering Money, y'all. Come on. Yes. It really is a safe space. Like, so this is how I talk to my community members, the women in Mama's Mastering Money. Like, I want to create a safe space where you feel comfortable just having these real conversations about money.
Yes. Well, we thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Yes,
this was a great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. This was amazing. We're going to make sure we tag you in the post, you know, upload everything. We're going to mention the books, have, you know, that on there so people can check out those books as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. So you guys, we're going to wrap up. So before we wrap up, we have just one quick suggestion. Tiffany, if you have a mom you would like to shout out a mom for us, and we can tag them on our Instagram and social media platforms as well.
Yes, there's a mom that I have been like watching and admiring over the past couple of years. Her name is Shalise Tyson, and she has a business called Shalise Tyson Enterprise, and she had twins last year. So I give kudos to all moms, but in my eyes, moms of multiples, like Lord, like y'all are special kind of humans. And so she is a mom. She calls a mother of 4. Okay, 4 kids now. So she's got 2 older and then the twins. But she is absolutely amazing. Her business is focused on women glowing from the inside out. And so her brand is called Glow Getter. And so she really is like an amazing human being, adult mom. And so I would love to shout her out.
Yes, that is.
And that just goes to show, if you never think that people watching you, people are. You never know who you inspire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you again, Tiffany, for joining us. So thank you guys again for listening to another episode. Please, please, please make sure you subscribe to our podcast. We appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in. Please make sure you follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are now on YouTube, TikTok at New Age Mamas. That's NEWAGEMAMAS. We have so much more in store for you guys. We have more upcoming guests in this year, 2023. So please make sure you follow us, you tag us, you like, subscribe, and you give us any updates. And that'll be a wrap.
Bye.
Yes.